What if I told you that your dinner plate is basically a mirror, that it reflects your entire philosophy on life? Today, we're going to dive into how our food choices, especially right here in Taiwan, reveal some pretty deep truths about the modern world and how we might just find a better way to live, one meal at a time. So, does this look familiar? On one hand, you really want to eat healthy, support local farms, but on the other hand, life is busy, right? And that quick, convenient fast food is just way too tempting. This is the struggle that's happening on so many of our plates every single day. Well, philosopher Julian Baggini, he just calls it what it is, a contradictory hodgepodge. I love that phrase. He's saying our food choices are this messy jumble of trends, what we think is common sense, and, let's be honest, some really clever marketing. It's no wonder the supermarket aisle can feel completely overwhelming. Okay, so how would we fix this chaos? Bogini's idea is that the answer isn't another diet, it's not another strict set of rules. No. What we actually need is a totally new way of thinking about it all, a new philosophy for our dinner table. He calls this pseudo-somatic ethics. Now, I know that sounds super fancy, but it's really just a way of saying we need an approach that connects our minds and our bodies. It's about seeing ourselves as a whole person, you know? Food isn't just fuel. It's an expression of our culture, our emotions. It's about unifying how we eat, drink, and live. And this is the core of his idea. On the left, you've got those rigid rules that just make you anxious. But on the right, that's Bagini's alternative, cultivating virtues. Think of virtues as internal skills, kind of like building an ethical muscle. It helps us make good choices that actually adapt to real life, empowering us instead of just stressing us out. All right, so how does this actually work in the real world? Let's take this philosophy and apply it to something we all do, grocery shopping. Let's see how these virtues can guide our choices right here in Taiwan. The first virtue he talks about comes straight from the Enlightenment, and it is dare to know. When it comes to our food, this basically means we have to think for ourselves. We can't just blindly follow the latest health fad or whatever the commercials are telling us. I mean, we've all been there. You see a label like organic, and you just assume it's a guarantee of something amazing and ethical. But Bagini warns that this is often a false comfort. A lot of these certifications are just based on minimum standards. A giant industrial farm can still get an organic label. Daring to know means we have to look beyond the sticker. So how do you actually do this? Well, it breaks down into a pretty simple three-step process. First, question what that label really truly means. Second, do a little digging, verify the source and how they do things. And finally, use that knowledge to make your own informed, truly autonomous choice. And this is so relevant in Taiwan right now. We're seeing this big push for food and agriculture education. Some of it is even powered by AI. But this raises a huge question we have to ask ourselves. Are these programs actually teaching us how to think, or are they just replacing the authority of a corporate label with a government one? Because true autonomy means you don't outsource your thinking to anyone. Okay, so building on that idea of thinking for ourselves, our next virtue, well, it challenges a really popular assumption, the idea that local is always better. Bagini argues that true strength isn't about total self-sufficiency, it's about smart interdependence. Just take the idea of food miles. We've all been trained to think that food traveling a long way is automatically bad for the planet. But get this, it's not always true. Research showed that in the UK, butter shipped all the way from New Zealand can actually have a smaller carbon footprint than local butter. Why? Because of New Zealand's super efficient farming. It's way more complex than just the distance it traveled. Now think about what this means for an island like Taiwan. Trying to be completely self-sufficient, it's not just unrealistic, it might not even be the most ethical or sustainable goal. A truly resilient food system needs a smart mix of local supply and global trade. It's all about embracing what he calls a benign globalization, which means supporting the best, most efficient producers no matter where they are. All right, we've talked about what we buy. Let's shift gears and talk about how we eat. Because in our crazy, fast-paced modern lives, one of the very first things we sacrifice is the ritual, the rhythm of our meals. Bagini argues our character, who we are, is forged in these tiny, everyday decisions. He gives the example of the hotel breakfast buffet. We've all been there. It seems totally harmless to pocket an extra croissant for lunch, right? But his point is that it cultivates these small habits of greed. These little moments aren't trivial at all. They're the training ground for the person we're becoming. And this idea of character connects directly to a massive issue we have in Taiwan: food waste. You can see here how the waste from buffets and banquets is just off the charts compared to cooking at home. Now, government campaigns to order just enough are helpful, sure. But Begini's philosophy would say the real solution has to come from inside us, by cultivating a personal character of respect for food that pushes back against this culture of wasteful excess. And wow, this table really lays out the dramatic shift in how we eat in Taiwan. Just look at the changes in time, space, content. We've gone from regular, ritualized meals at home to these irregular, efficiency-driven takeout meals. Essentially, the cultural ritual of sharing a meal has been replaced by the simple function of refueling. So reclaiming that ritual, it almost becomes an act of resistance, doesn't it? But Jeannie makes this powerful case for the humble lunch break. It shouldn't just be about cramming food in at your desk. He calls it a rhythmic intermission, a real break to reset your mind and body. Taking a proper lunch is a small but profound act of defiance against a culture that's obsessed with nonstop efficiency. So, after looking at all of this, from global supply chains all the way down to your personal lunch break, the question really comes back to you. What is your food philosophy? What are the principles that guide what you put on your plate and how you eat it? In the end, Bajini's entire philosophy really boils down to this one single, powerful idea. To know how to eat is to know how to live. Our relationship with food is a mirror for our relationship with life itself. When we eat with thoughtfulness, with courage, and with gratitude, we are literally practicing a better way of living, one bite at a time. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about at your very next meal. Which virtue are you going to practice? Will it be the courage to really know where your food came from, the intention to create a small, meaningful ritual, or maybe just the simple gratitude for the meal in front of you? The choice is yours.